Stop the clock. In the entire history of warfare, one of the biggest threats to the American war machine wasn't Hitler's U-boats or the Luftwaffe. It was a sandwich, a stale, cold, cardboard sandwich. By 1943, the U.S. Army was losing the equivalent of an entire division's combat readiness every month, all because they couldn't figure out how to feed their soldiers on a train. Military engineers declared the problem impossible. But 2,000 miles away from the chaos, a 42-year-old railroad cook with an 8th-grade education was about to break every rule and single-handedly solve a logistical nightmare that changed the course of World War II. This is the incredible, forgotten story of James Harvey Reed and the mobile kitchen car. March 17, 1943. Somewhere in the Nevada desert, the hospital train crawls to a stop for the 4th time in 6 hours. Inside car 47, 2,000 wounded soldiers from North Africa wait for food that will never arrive. The portable field kitchens at each station are overwhelmed. Men who survived Catherine Pass are now going 18 hours between meals. Major William Thompson walks the length of the train, counting empty stomachs. The statistics are damning. Across the American rail network, the Army is moving 43,000 troops daily on hospital and troop trains. Standard procedure requires trains to stop every 6 hours for 30-minute meal breaks at designated station kitchens. But those kitchens are collapsing under impossible demand. The average wait time has ballooned to 2 hours. Trains are arriving at embarkation ports 6 to 8 hours behind schedule. In the past month alone, 3 transport ships have missed their convoy departure windows because their troop trains arrived too late for processing. The mathematics are brutal. Each delayed ship represents 1,500 combat-ready soldiers not reaching the European theater. Each hour a hospital train sits idle is another hour wounded men go without hot food. Medical officers are reporting that malnutrition is slowing recovery times by an average of 4 days per patient. Thompson does the calculation in his head. At current rates, the military is losing the equivalent of 60,000 man-days of combat effectiveness every single month simply because they cannot figure out how to feed soldiers on moving trains. The War Department has tried everything. Nothing works. The bottleneck is fundamental. You cannot feed 10,000 men per day through fixed-point kitchens when those men are constantly in motion. What Major Thompson doesn't know as he watches another group of wounded soldiers receive stale sandwiches and cold coffee is that 2,000 miles away in Chicago, a 42-year-old railroad cook with an 8th-grade education is about to solve a problem that has stumped the Army's best logistical minds. His name is James Harvey Reed, and he is about to break every regulation in the Military Railroad Handbook. By 1942, the United States military is moving more personnel by rail than any organization in human history, 1.2 million soldiers per month. The War Department's solution to build fixed feeding stations was a catastrophic failure. The fundamental problem is synchronization. Trains are waiting 3 hours for meal service. The entire rail schedule along that corridor collapses. Engineers propose pre-cooked rations. Troops hate them. Soldiers begin calling the K-rations Hitler's secret weapon. By early 1943, the delay is costing the Army the equivalent of an entire division's worth of manpower every month. The expert consensus is unanimous. There is no solution. The laws of physics and logistics are immutable. You cannot cook food on a moving train. Every military engineer who has examined the problem reaches the same conclusion. Hot meals require stationary kitchens. Moving trains require stopping. There is no alternative. The stakes could not be higher. The consensus was unanimous. It was impossible. You cannot defeat the laws of physics. The Army, with its infinite budget and elite engineers, was beaten by a simple railroad track. They had hit a dead end, convinced that hot food required a stationary kitchen. But their immutable laws of logistics were about to meet a man who had been defying them for 31 years, A man who saw chaos not as a problem, but as a Tuesday morning commute. James Harvey Reed has no engineering degree, no military training. What he has is 31 years of experience cooking on moving trains. He was head cook on the California Zephyr, feeding 200 passengers three-course meals that rival fine restaurants, all while traveling at 70 miles per hour. In February 1943, Reed is assigned to a military hospital train. He observes the chaos. On the third day of his assignment, somewhere in western Nebraska, Reed has a moment of clarity. He turns to the train's medical officer, Captain Robert Chun. "Sir, this doesn't make sense. We're stopping the train to bring the soldiers to the kitchen. Why don't we bring the kitchen to the soldiers?" "You mean cook on the train while it's moving?" "I do it every day on passenger service," Reed says. "I can feed 200 people 3 meals a day in a dining car. With the right setup, I could feed thousands." Chun shakes his head. "The Army has looked at mobile kitchens. The engineers say it's impossible. The fire risk alone." Reed's voice is quiet, but firm. "With respect, sir, the Army's engineers have never cooked on a moving train. I have for 31 years, and I'm telling you it can be done. Bring the kitchen to the soldiers." A sentence so simple, yet so revolutionary, it sounded like madness to Captain Chun. But this simple idea was the key that unlocked the entire war effort. For the military, this meant breaking 17 regulations. For James Reed, it meant engineering a solution out of thin air. A stove that could cook at 60 miles per hour, a ventilation system that wrestled smoke against a 70 miles per hour headwind, and a mobile pantry that could feed 2,000 men without stopping. This was his laboratory. That night, Reed begins sketching designs. He starts with a standard 40-foot boxcar. Working nights and weekends, he installs a series of coal-fired stoves with critical modifications. Each stove sits in a specially designed gimbal mount that allows it to remain level even as the train sways. He installs 12 stoves. He creates a series of baffled vents that use the train's forward motion to create negative pressure, pulling smoke and heat out of the car. He designs secured shelving to hold 2,000 pounds of food. By April 1943, Reed has spent 3 months and $200 of his own money building his prototype. The car is ugly, cramped, and violates at least 17 Army regulations. On April 23rd, Reed conducts his first test run to Kansas City. Reed and 2 assistant cooks prepare a full breakfast. The food is hot, properly cooked, and indistinguishable from kitchen-prepared meals. The station manager stares at Reed in disbelief. "You cooked this on the train while it was moving?" "Yes, sir. At an average speed of 52 miles per hour. The manager pauses. "That's impossible. The Army says it can't be done." Reed smiles. "Sir, the Army's never hired a railroad cook before." The Army's response was brutal. A form letter. The system rejected the genius idea not because it failed, but because its success would embarrass the men who had declared it impossible. The fate of 43,000 traveling soldiers a day was being decided by bureaucratic pride. But then, a maverick colonel, a man who hated protocol, stepped into a dusty Chicago rail yard and saw the future of military logistics built inside a simple 40-foot boxcar. The breakthrough comes from Colonel Lewis BBE, a maverick executive who demands to see the car. BBE asks Reed, "Can you feed 2,000 soldiers in 6 hours while the train is moving at full speed?" Reed replies, "Sir, give me 4 of these cars and I can feed 2,000 soldiers 3 hot meals a day without stopping the train once." 2 weeks later, BBE arranges a formal demonstration. On June 29, 1943, Reed's kitchen car is coupled to a troop train carrying 1,000 soldiers. The train accelerates to 60 miles per hour. Within 90 minutes, Reed's team has prepared 1,000 hot meals. The entire operation takes 3 hours. The train never stops. The food is hot and nutritionally complete. Objections begin immediately. A quartermaster major shouts, "This is a clear violation of Army Regulation 32 to 2025 regarding fire safety." BBE interrupts. "The stoves are safer than having 2,000 soldiers standing on cold platforms in the middle of nowhere." An engineer argues the system undermines the existing infrastructure. BBE says flatly, "That infrastructure is failing. We are losing combat effectiveness. This man has solved the problem." BBE stands up. "Gentlemen, I am authorizing immediate production of 20 kitchen cars based on Mr. Reed's design. If you have objections, put them in writing. I will file them appropriately, which means I will ignore them." The first production kitchen car, designated Type K, 47 rolls out on August 15, 1943. It costs $8,400 compared to $45,000 for a fixed-station kitchen. The first full-scale trial, a hospital train carrying 1,247 wounded soldiers across the country. The train arrives at Fort Dix 6 hours ahead of schedule because it never had to stop for feeding. This represents a 15% reduction in total transit time. Over the 4-day journey, the 2 cars serve 22,640 hot meals. The time savings translate to increased rail capacity, 20% more trains per day. Stop and consider the sheer magnitude of that moment. A cook, not a general, gave the 82nd Airborne the 4 extra hours they needed. Those 4 hours meant the difference between making the convoy and missing D-Day. The hot meals didn't just boost morale. They bought time. They delivered 112,000 soldiers to their ships on schedule, increasing rail capacity by 20% and dramatically speeding up the recovery of the wounded. Reed's invention became the unsung logistical hero of the European theater. On November 8th, a troop train carrying 2,200 soldiers from the 82nd Airborne Division departs. Under the old system, they would miss their ship. The train arrives in New York with 4 hours to spare. All 2,200 soldiers board the USS West Point on schedule. Those soldiers will participate in the D-Day invasion 7 months later. The on-time arrival rate for troop trains jumped from 71% to 94%. The system has fed 2.1 million soldiers without a single serious fire incident or food poisoning outbreak. By the war's end in August 1945, the Army has built 612 K-47 kitchen cars. They have served more than 47 million hot meals. The system saved the Army an estimated $34 million in infrastructure costs. James Harvey Reed never sought the spotlight. He declined the Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian award. He declined a high-paying consultant job, returning to his job as a cook on the California Zephyr. Today, the concept Reed pioneered is standard practice. The U.S. Army's containerized kitchen system, introduced in 2001, is a direct descendant of Reed's moving kitchen car. The last K-47 was retired in 1974, having served for 31 years. James Harvey Reed died in 1978. His obituary mentioned he had been a railroad cook for 47 years. It did not mention that his invention had fed millions of soldiers and helped win World War II. But in a storage facility at Fort Lee, Virginia, the Army's Logistics Museum maintains one of the original K-47 kitchen cars. A small plaque reads, "Designed by James Harvey Reed, Railroad Cook, 1943. Sometimes the best solutions come from the people who actually do the work." Reed would have appreciated that.